welcome back to our channel. My name is Yoande and I have Moyo with me. We're wishing you a very, very happy new year. I hope everyone's year is off to a great start. This year, we're going to be doing a number of things differently. And in the next few weeks, we'll be sharing what we have planned for this year. But in today's video, we're going to be introducing you to one of our partners who we'll be working with this year. Our partner is called Onboard. They are a student-centered platform that's designed to help students navigate complex administrative, legal, and immigration processes. And they define themselves as a company that's built by international students for international students. So I'm going to pass it off to Jason and Sid, who work with Onboard, to tell us some more about themselves and about Onboard. So Jason or Sid, whichever of you wants to go first.
Yeah, thanks, Yawande. So my name is Jason. I'm Taiwanese American, originally from New Jersey. My parents were first generation immigrants to this country. I did my undergrad at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. After that, I spent a number of years. I actually worked at Deloitte Consulting as well. And I decided I wanted to be product manager. I went to go work for a few healthcare startups. Eventually, I decided I would go get my MBA at Emory University in Atlanta. After Emory, I decided I wanted to go into investment banking. So I became an investment banking associate. That's where I met Sid. Sid and I worked together for a better part of a year and a half before we started Onboard. And I'll let Sid talk a little bit about himself.
Awesome. Thanks again, guys, for having us. And again, guys, my name's Sid, and I'm originally from Mumbai, from India. That's where I was born, brought up and raised for almost 18 years before I came down to the US for my undergrad studies. And I also came down to Emory, took a non-traditional route for 5 years, double majored in the business school, studied finance and accounting out there, and also did a math econ major in the college. I was super involved in campus across both professional and cultural activities, different organizations as well. I worked across a different spectrum of finance internships throughout college. Graduated in May 2019, worked in investment banking with Jason in Atlanta. Worked there for a little over a year before starting Onboard as well.
Cool. Awesome. Great to learn more about you, Jason and Sid. So would either of you want to tell us, what was the reason behind founding Onboard? What's the story behind Onboard?
Sure. Like I said, I'm from India originally, and I'm an international student in this country. I studied on the F1 visa as well, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this, but moving to a whole new country, especially when you're 18, is not that easy. You have to deal with all these foreign concepts, all these names, entities, and processes that you're just not aware of. And going back in time, I'm trying to remember things like opening my first bank account or like getting my first credit card in the US, where I had so many questions, related to my options and like the different processes involved, or even health insurance. Coming into this country, I had no clue about the health insurance space, and I just accepted what my university was offering, only to find out 3 years later that there is an equivalent and a cheaper policy that I take. And I took that policy, literally ended up paying like a third of what I was paying. Could have saved up thousands of dollars out there, but it's just information that was not readily available to me. Recruitment was a whole different ballgame altogether. Finding a company that is willing to sponsor you and hire you as an international student is obviously difficult, but even for the ones that are willing to hire you, there's a lot of gray area out there with mismatched information, with who really sponsors and who does not. Almost every legal process that I can think about, I had questions, and I did not have that one-stop shop resource that could provide me with credible and reliable information. We have all these different international student offices, but they're so resource constrained that they end up either giving you vague answers after taking days to respond, or they just believe you to go talk to an immigration attorney, which is not the most affordable option, and not getting clear answers is something that I had to get used to. That was a huge trigger point for me. And we just really wish there was something out there that could really help us. And, Onboard is the perfect way for us to attempt at making things better for the international student community.
Awesome.
Yeah, and to echo a little bit of what Sid said, like I mentioned earlier, my parents were first generation immigrants to this country from Taiwan, and you'd be surprised how little has changed with immigration bureaucracy in the US over the last 30 years. If anything, we found that it's only gotten more complex. Even today, I have a lot of relatives that come to the US in pursuit of higher education, and every single time they need to develop some kind of support network. And that's, usually my immediate family, might be other students on campus. But a lot of times, we see these random social media channels or online forums that are really filled with glorified armchair attorneys dishing out advice. And we think that it is just really confusing and frustrating for students. And so we founded Onboard to transform the international student experience in the US. We believe that the community is painfully underserved. And we found that many of the tools and services available today are designed more for university administrators that work with international students, more so than the students themselves. So we believe that Onboard can really be that tool, that community for international students, to help simplify their student experience and give them, the student experience that we can.
Awesome. So I think it's very interesting to hear the story behind you guys as well as the story behind Onboard. If you want to tell us a little more about, Onboard and the services that you offer, and what students can stand to gain from Onboard.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you a little bit about, some of the stories that we've heard, and I think that kind of best encapsulates all the different things that we're trying to do. So over the past year, we've talked to so many international students from all over the country, and we found that students face really similar struggles when it comes to getting settled in the US, figuring out immigration, recruiting, networking. And we found that a lot of this friction stems from the fact that today, students really only have access to the other students around them. And Onboard is really designed to give international students access to an entire diverse community of students all over the US, and at the same time, empower them with a really comprehensive set of tools that are designed to help simplify their student experience, and simplify some of those things that Sid mentioned, like health insurance, getting a driver's license, immigration paperwork. Today, we are laser focused on immigration and really that transition from classroom to workplace. And that's what our EAD Plus service is all about. We're helping students take care of the administrative bureaucracy involved with filing their work authorization paperwork so that you as an international student have as much bandwidth as possible to focus on the things that really matter in your student life. And especially things like recruiting, networking, and enjoying the final months of your student experience. So that's, in a nutshell, a lot of why we developed Onboard and what we're offering today.
Awesome, awesome. So then your EAD service, EAD Plus service, sounds like it's designed to simplify the OPT application process. I understand that, if you're an international student in the US, you should know what OPT is. But for the benefit of people who don't know what OPT is, can you just explain to the viewers what OPT and what the concept of OPT is?
Sure, I can take this one. So every international student who comes here studies in this country on the F1 student visa. They have a legal right to be working in the US after their graduation for a period of 12 months. And that 12-month work authorization period is called OPT, or optional practical training. And you can avail this work authorization by sending in an application to USCIS, which is a government affiliated agency. And there's really just 3 different types of OPT depending on your unique situation. You may only apply for either one of them at any given point in time. The most commonly sought after one is this thing called post-completion OPT. Meant more for graduating seniors, both at the undergrad and the grad level. It's meant for students who will start working after their graduation date. Pre-completion OPT is meant for students who will start working before their graduation date. And the third one, STEM OPT, that's another common one as well. It's meant for students who graduate with STEM degrees. They can apply for STEM OPT towards the end of their regular post-completion OPT 12-month period. And essentially they can extend it by an additional 24 months, in total giving them 3 years of work authorization.
Cool.
So go ahead.
I was gonna ask, so then when is a typical time for people to apply for OPT?
Yeah, that can get slightly tricky, and you really want to just keep in mind your program completion date to better understand the OPT application timeline. And for most schools, the program completion date is the same as the graduation date. So you can apply for OPT strictly between 90 days before your program completion date and 60 days after your program completion date. USCIS will basically reject your application if they receive it before or after that time window. You also need to bear in mind the 30-day rule. So what I mean by that is students will need to apply within 30 days of them getting recommended for OPT by the respective university's DSO or designated school official. So as part of this process, part of this OPT process, you basically receive an OPT I-20, which is a unique I-20 that you get towards the end of your college experience, about to graduate. And you get a signature and an issuance date on this OPT I-20, and you must have that application, your OPT application, sent to USCIS within 30 days of your DSO issuing that OPT I-20. And I know this can get super confusing, and I highly recommend checking out the blog post on our website. We've got some great tools out there. I have one right here that I can share real quick, just to give you a demo. So if you guys can see my screen.
Yep.
Right here, we've got this tool that basically just automates everything. It auto-populates, and you can just have a fair estimate as to what your timeline can look like. You literally just have to enter your program completion date. And for the sake of this example, we just pick a date for someone graduating in spring 2021. So, that's usually in the middle of May. So I'm just gonna pick a random May 15th, 2021, and you can see how this entire tool auto-populates itself. Graphically shows you the first day that you can apply for OPT, your application timeline window as to the last date of your application as well. If you scroll further down, you can even take a look at your OPT issuance date. So let's just say given the current processing delays, people are freaking out and they just want to get their application out as soon as possible. So in this case, assuming the person just gets eligible to apply 14th Feb 2021, and a week later they want to get their OPT issued as well. So let's just assume that they go ahead and submit it. They get their OPT I-20 issued on 20th Feb. You can see how 22nd March 2021 would be the last date for USCIS to receive your application. So you can scroll down in these tools and just look at the different scenarios that you can find yourself in. But overall, just believe that these tools are just super helpful in terms of understanding what your timeline can look like. So I highly recommend checking out the blog post for that.
Awesome. And so with the pandemic and everything going on in the US now, especially from an immigration perspective as well, how has this impacted this process for international students? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, it's certainly a tough time to be an international student in the US, especially with so many universities switching to hybrid learning and just information not being available. The presidential transition certainly doesn't make things any simpler, but as many international students have heard, and just like so many other government services, even the US Postal Service, coronavirus has severely hampered the ability of USCIS to just process student work authorization applications in a timely manner. For the Texas lockbox especially, we've talked with students that have faced delays of over 3 months before even getting an application receipt notice. And as you can imagine, these kinds of delays put a lot of students at risk, especially those that have accepted a job offer and have communicated to their employers that they're going to be able to start working by a certain date, right? For many companies, especially with the summer approaching, that have scheduled analyst training programs or other, similar types of programs for new graduates. This means that international students who are delayed in their OPT processing are going to be missing out on critical opportunities to meet their new coworkers, learn about their new job, learn about their new company, get settled in a new city. And that's a big disadvantage and an unfortunate one. But we're hopeful. Information, especially within the last 2 weeks, has started to trickle out, addressing some of the delays and struggles that students are facing. And we're hopeful that it's going to get faster over the next few months, especially as the new administration gets their bearings on what's been going on over the last year and how we haven't really been able to adapt to the restrictions that coronavirus have placed on travel and learning. And hopefully, as the epidemic hopefully draws to a close quickly over the next year, and we as travel restrictions start getting more and more relaxed, we kind of see a situation where things can get back to normal, hopefully by the fall or spring of next year. But it's been a really big struggle for students. Our advice to many of the students who are going to be going through OPT this year is to apply early, apply as early as you can, and apply once. And that's really important because many students don't realize how complex the OPT process can be. And especially this year when there are so many delays, making a mistake and even having USCIS come back to you for requests for additional evidence can slow down your processing time by a month and a half, or even more. So it's important that you do it early and you do it one time. As we continue here over the next few weeks, we have a bulletin that we try to make available to students, but keep up to date, talk to your friends and as much as you can, talk to your student advisors, reach out to us to get some guidance on what's going on and if anything, what's changed. Just last week, the USCIS lockbox filing locations were changed. It used to be that if you lived in certain states, you would send your application to different lockboxes all over the country, but without much warning, USCIS actually changed that, and now all applications are going to go to a single lockbox, and that information, hopefully, student advisors are starting to disseminate. But it's stuff like that which we think will put students at risk if they don't know about it. So keep up to date. Make sure you do it early. Make sure you do it once.
Thank you. And yeah, it's definitely a tough time to be an international student. Hopefully with services like yours, we get more information out there. So beyond the EAD Plus service, what else does Onboard offer?
Yeah, so Jason obviously touched on the EAD Plus service, and we really do think of that as like a strong base to create our international student alumni community. We are currently working on building a solution for incoming freshmen and lowerclassmen in general, to really help them with some of the difficulties that I mentioned earlier on, from helping them set up a reasonably priced health insurance plan or even a cellular plan. Most people don't think about this, but I literally just spoke to someone who was about to go to the US, start his undergrad journey, and the kid does not have a cell phone. And, he was asking me questions like, how am I going to get to my dorm? I don't have a valid SIM card. I don't know I'm going to be able to call an Uber. And I was like, true that is so valid. Helping students like that, help with struggles very similar to this, just even help them obtain their credit card or just set up their bank account, help them with SSNs or help them with their driver's license. And there's a whole laundry list of different services that we're trying to bundle together and offer as a package to students who are going to be making the transition into this country. And, we also understand that the job search process is huge for international students, and we do plan to launch services to cater to the recruitment process as well. We eventually want to create a community for international students to rely upon, and really just learn from people who've been in their shoes. And, like we mentioned earlier, we do plan to become the concierge platform for international students and just be part of the entire life cycle, as they transition from high school to college, work at full-time jobs and just advancing their careers overall.
Awesome. That sounds very, very exciting. And me as an international student and AIC, we're very excited for this opportunity. So how can people get involved? How can our viewers get involved in this?
Yeah, one of the best ways for someone to get involved is really to just reach out to us. If you've got an interesting story that you want to share with us, we were running a student spotlight series right now where we're talking with international students that have successfully made that transition to finding their first employer in the U.S. and we want to tell those stories. We think that part of developing a really good career search platform, mentorship network is really just being able to have students that have made that transition tell it to students that are about to go through it, and share some of the things that they did that really served them well when they were preparing and going through their career search and making that transition from classroom to workplace. So one of the best ways is if you've got a story to share with us and you think it'll be helpful for other international students to hear, reach out to us. We'd love to help you share that story. Number two, we talked a little bit about all the different things that are going on in terms of immigration policy right now. we're actually preparing a petition to help highlight some of the struggles that international students are facing. There have been so many different executive orders, it's been hard to keep track of over the last year. We know that not all of those orders are going to stay, and we think that it's important, especially as this new transition, this new administration gets settled in, that we make the voices of international students heard in the kind of community in Washington, D.C. So one of the things that as we roll that out over the next few weeks, we want to help publicize it, get as many student signatures as possible. That'll be really, really important over the coming weeks. And lastly, we've got a bulletin, like I mentioned, that provides a lot of important information for international students. Even just immigration-related policy changes are going to be important as people are filing and preparing their applications. So that's a great way to sign up. You can sign up on our website, onboardss.com. And lastly, if you are part of a student organization that works with a lot of international students, we want to talk to you. We think that in building our communities, one of the best ways that we can do it is to talk to organization leaders that have started to do it on the university level within each university all over the US. We think that's probably going to be the best way to reach people. And it has been successful so far. So if you have an organization that works with a lot of international students, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason and Sid, for joining us today. So all our viewers, you've heard what Jason said. Reach out to them if you have your story and you'd like to share with other international students. Join in the petition if you'd like to get your voice heard, and that way we can have one cohesive, united voice for international students. I'm very excited for this opportunity. I'm very excited that we have international students creating this platform for others, and I hope that we can continue our partnership and we can continue to bring international students together to form a community and make our voices heard here in the US. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for shedding light on what's Onboard offers, and I look forward to discussing with you in the future. And with that, my name is Yewande, my name is Moyo as always, and with me I have Yewande. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great rest of your day.